Okay, are you ready for this? Today's deep dive is a wild one. We're talking about Rudy Giuliani. Yeah, that Rudy Giuliani. Remember all those headlines about him and a $148 million judgment?
Oh, how could we forget? It was everywhere.
Well, you guys wanted to know the whole story, so we're breaking it all down. Court documents, luxury watches, even a vintage car with a Hollywood connection. It's all in there.
It's true. And as crazy as it sounds, it all connects to a much bigger issue, the consequences of misinformation and the fight to hold powerful people accountable.
Exactly. So for those who need a quick refresher,
Hmm.
we're talking about Rudy Giuliani, the guy who was America's mayor after 9/11, right?
Right.
How does that guy end up owing $148 million?
Well, it all goes back to his role as Donald Trump's lawyer, especially after the 2020 election. Giuliani was front and center, making some pretty explosive claims about election fraud.
And those claims had some serious consequences, right?
Yeah.
Specifically for two Georgia election workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss.
Absolutely. Giuliani went on air and accused them of tampering with ballots in Fulton County. And those accusations spread like wildfire online, on the news, everywhere.
But those accusations were totally baseless.
Totally, they were completely made up.
Can you imagine being accused of something like that on such a public stage? It's hard to even fathom the stress and damage to their reputations.
It wasn't just their reputations. They faced a barrage of online harassment, threats. It was a truly awful situation. And it's important to remember that this wasn't some abstract legal case. It had real-life, devastating consequences for these women.
And the court recognized the seriousness of what happened, which is what led to that huge $148 million verdict in December 2023.
Right. The jury sided with Freeman and Moss, finding Giuliani liable for defamation. That $148 million includes both compensatory damages to compensate them for the harm they suffered and punitive damages.
Punitive damages, that's the court's way of saying we're making an example out of you, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about sending a message that this kind of behavior won't be tolerated.
But of course, Giuliani didn't just accept the verdict quietly. He filed for bankruptcy, claiming he couldn't possibly pay that much money.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty transparent attempt to avoid paying up. But there was one problem. The court didn't buy it.
They saw right through it. Why? What happened?
Well, let's just say Giuliani wasn't exactly cooperative in handing over his financial records. He was evasive, not transparent at all. So in July of 2024, the court dismissed his bankruptcy filing.
Not the outcome he was hoping for. But this is where things get really interesting, because just a few months later, in October 2024, the court came down on him hard. Tell us about that court order.
Well, this is where the consequences start to hit home for Giuliani. The court ordered him to hand over some very interesting assets to Freeman and Moss. And by interesting, I mean they paint a picture of a lifestyle that doesn't exactly scream financially struggling.
Okay, so we're not talking about spare change here. What kind of assets are we talking about? So spill the tea. What did the court go after?
Well, for starters, there's his apartment in New York City.
Okay, so we're not talking some tiny studio apartment here.
No, not at all. This is a multi-million-dollar apartment. Prime real estate.
Oh, wow. Okay, so definitely not hurting for cash. What else?
Well, get this. The court also ordered him to hand over his watch collection.
His watch collection. How many watches are we even talking about?
A cool 26. And not just any watches, mind you. These are high-end luxury watches. We're talking Rolex, Tiffany & Co., the real deal.
Hold on a minute. 26 luxury watches. Was he running some kind of watch fencing operation on the side?
Maybe. But wait, there's more.
Oh, no, there's more. Hit me.
How about a vintage Mercedes-Benz?
Okay, now that's just showing off.
And it gets better. This wasn't just any Mercedes. This one was previously owned by actress Lauren Bacall.
Whoa, seriously. The Lauren Bacall? That's a car with a story to tell. But a luxury apartment, a watch collection that could rival a king's ransom, a car with Hollywood history, that's gotta be it, right?
You wish. If you're a sports fan, this next one might hurt a little. He was also ordered to hand over his sports memorabilia collection.
Wait, Rudy Giuliani, the guy who was practically a permanent fixture at Yankee Stadium, collects sports memorabilia. I never would have guessed.
Well, he does. And not just any memorabilia. We're talking signed items from legends like Joe DiMaggio and Reggie Jackson.
Okay, I'll admit I'm a little impressed. But let's take a step back for a second, because this isn't just about some disgraced politician and his lavish lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's something much bigger at play here. What does all of this tell us?
You're absolutely right. This case goes way beyond just Rudy Giuliani. This highlights the very real dangers of spreading misinformation, especially when it's coming from someone in a position of power.
Yeah, like the court is saying, look, your words have power. You need to use them responsibly.
Exactly. And don't forget, Giuliani isn't even allowed to hold on to any of these assets while he's appealing the ruling.
Wow. So it's not just about the money. It's about sending a message.
Yeah.
Did Freeman and Moss's lawyers have anything to say about the court's decision?
Oh, yeah. Their lawyer, Aaron Nathan, said this should serve as a warning against those who disseminate false information intentionally.
A warning against those who disseminate false information intentionally. Those are some powerful words. This really highlights just how important accurate information is, especially these days. And speaking of finding accurate information, I'm always on the hunt for new tools to help me cut through all the noise and find reliable information online, right?
Always. What have you found?
Well, recently I came across this site called podcastworld.io, and it's amazing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's like having a personal assistant dedicated to podcasts.
I like the sound of that already. How does it work?
Imagine this, you're interested in a specific topic, maybe something you heard on a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but you just don't have time to listen to hours of recordings to find it again.
Oh, tell me about it. That's my life. So how does podcastworld.io help with that?
Well, instead of having to scroll through episodes and hope you get lucky, podcastworld.io actually scans millions of podcast conversations. It's crazy.
Millions. So it's not just a handful of shows.
Nope. It covers a massive amount of podcasts. And get this, it transcribes them and uses AI to understand what's being discussed.
Wow. Okay, so then what? How do I use it?
It's so easy. You literally just type in your question like, what do they say about misinformation? Or do they talk about vintage cars? Whatever you're looking for. And it points you to the exact podcast segments where your question is answered.
No more endless fast forwarding and rewinding. That's amazing.
It's a game changer. But wait, there's more. Remember we were talking about AI a minute ago?
Yeah, you mentioned something about bots.
Right. Well, podcastworld.io takes it a step further. You can actually chat with AI bots of specific podcasts and personalities.
Hold on. Are you saying I could basically have a conversation with an AI version of, say, a legal expert or a political commentator I like?
Exactly. It's like having a personalized Q&A session.
That's incredible. It's like having a follow-up conversation with the host long after the episode is over.
Right. You can dig deeper into a topic or even get their take on new developments.
I'll have to check it out for sure. But back to Giuliani, he still maintains he's innocent, right? And he plans to appeal.
Yeah, he says he's innocent and is going to appeal.
Yeah.
But honestly, his chances don't look so good.
Yeah, multiple courts have already ruled against him at this point.
Exactly. And he hasn't exactly been winning any legal mastermind awards with his strategy so far. But appeal or not, his case really highlights the danger of spreading misinformation. Especially in this day and age, with social media and all, it's a powerful reminder that words have consequences.
Definitely. It makes you think about accountability in the digital age. Where do we draw the line between free speech and protecting people from harmful lies?
It's a conversation we all need to be having, and it's definitely a lot bigger than just Rudy Giuliani.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, that's the story of Rudy Giuliani's wild ride from a $148 million judgment to a vintage Mercedes with a Hollywood past. It's a story about truth, lies, and the fight for accountability in our digital world.
And more importantly, it's a story that reminds us all to be careful about what we believe and share online.
So until next time, keep those critical thinking caps on, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.